My name is Leslie. I'm from the Nature Foundation, and my presentation is going to go firstly over the review of the state of our ecosystems, thanks to a large-scale research project that was a collaboration with the Ministry of Romy and the Nature Foundation itself, and then through what actions we think need to be prioritized to protect and preserve the biodiversity of our island. As an overview, I'm going to give a short background of the Nature Foundation. I'm sure everyone is familiar, but as we have people listening online and through social media, just a short introduction. The current nature protections we have in St. Martin, our local ecosystems and the results of our resilience planning research, biodiversity hotspots, and the responsibility to protect these areas. So the Nature Foundation's mission is to preserve and enhance the natural environment of St. Martin through proper management, education, public awareness, law enforcement, scientific research, and monitoring relating to all aspects of the terrestrial, wetland, and marine surroundings. The way that we operate is through a service level agreement with Government St. Martin that's managed by the Ministry of Romy and was due for renewal in January of 2025. Our SLA deliverables have been outlined from the Ministry of Romy to give us priorities of what we should be working on and using the subsidy provided by government to do so. These are, as such, 40% of our time should be spent on invasive species management, 20% towards research and advice, 13% on site inspections and enforcement, 13% on active park management, 7% on public outreach, and 7% on the protection of endangered species. The protected areas in St. Martin does need to be touched on because we are currently the only island in the Dutch Caribbean that does not have a terrestrial nature park for our residents and visitors to enjoy. We do have the Man of War Shoal Spa protected area, which is 31 square kilometers off the coast of Great Bay. And we have a Ramsar protected area in Mullet Pond, though both of these are still under severe pressure. And St. Martin is party to both SPA and the Ramsar Convention through the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So our current international and local obligations. Locally, of course, we have the beach and hillside policies. These are decade-old guidelines that are due for updates. The beach policy was instated in 1994 and highlights that the beaches must be usable for everyone, both local residents and tourists alike. The hillside policy, the main objective of that policy is to conserve the green hillsides and protect, and if need, restore the natural value for the benefit of the environment, the tourism industry, and the quality of life for St. Martiners. We have the Management and Protection of Nature Ordinance, which are local ordinances that allow for extremely limited protection for species and protected areas. We have the Ramsar Convention, which is an international treaty that supports national action and currently protects Mullet Pond. This is focused on wetland areas. And then the SPA protocol is we are a party to through the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and that can protect areas like the Man of War Shoal Marine Park, but also there are species listed as SPA protected species. Of course, we all know this. There are several reasons for an importance of a healthy environment. Primarily, one thing that is touched on by most people in St. Martin is its role for tourism. An estimated 80% of our economy relies on tourism, and our environment is what draws tourists here. The clear waters, sandy beaches, coral reefs attract millions of visitors daily. An estimated 80% of our stayover tourists engage in coral reef related activities like diving, snorkeling, going to the beach. Secondly, which is more important for the residents of St. Martin, is the climate change mitigation. A healthy marine and terrestrial ecosystem are really important in the fight against climate change. Climate change directly impacts us because it is what promotes frequent and stronger hurricanes in our region. This is something that directly impacts our residents, particularly those that are in vulnerable areas of St. Martin. And preserving the habitats is key to enhancing our resilience against these storms. Supportive fisheries. There has been a big push by Government St. Martin to address our food security, and fisheries is one of the most vulnerable aspects of our community. Sustainable marine ecosystems ensure abundant fish populations and harvesting stocks. The local fishers are struggling right now to be able to support their families and our community with fish stocks in St. Martin. And then finally, a standard of living for our residents. A thriving marine environment and terrestrial environment enhances the quality of life for our residents. Being able to have areas that they can go outside and enjoy their environment is extremely important, and healthy ecosystems provide essential resources to our economic stability. So now that we've done an overview, I'll be giving a short as I could, a short overview of what we have been able to achieve through the Carina project. Due to unsustainable development and management practices, the consequences of climate change, and limited legal protections, St. Martin's marine and terrestrial environments are under extreme threat. To be able to address this, the Ministry of Romy worked for actually several years to put together the Rezimbid project. The Rezimbid project focused on coastal resilience and our needs assessments. To achieve the results of this project, we had 3 different sections. The first section was executed by the Nature Foundation itself. This project was the Marine and Coastal Assessment, and that was led by in-house staff and our science officer, Dr. Leticia Methon. The second aspect of this project was a terrestrial biodiversity assessment. For this, we partnered with Environmental Protection in the Caribbean, another local NGO that has a long-standing history of researching terrestrial areas in St. Martin and the terrestrial species. The third aspect of this project was led by the Ministry of Romy to do a assessment of our needs and our resilience and our vulnerability to climate change and the things that St. Martin needs to be able to succeed, both as a biodiversity area and for our community. So here I do a short overview of the key activities that the Nature Foundation and EPIC did in our separate research. For the Nature Foundation, we focused on marine habitat mapping, seagrass and coral health monitoring, mangrove and wetland assessments, and species inventory and fisheries management. Environmental Protection in the Caribbean, when they focused on their terrestrial biodiversity assessment, executed field surveys, site assessments, species identification and population estimates, literature review and historical comparisons, and stakeholder engagement and expert analysis. Another huge part of everything that we did was trying to support capacity building, both within the Nature Foundation and the Ministry of Romy itself. So, the key findings for the Nature Foundation's Marine and Coastal Biodiversity Assessment show us that the marine environment is under threat, and action needs to be taken now to address what is happening under the water and in the coastline of St. Martin. In 2023, 85% of the reefs monitored showed a critical status regarding the live coral cover, so there was not enough live coral. Also, they showed a critical status of macroalgae cover, so actually too much algae cover to overgrow the corals. In the map that's shown here, you can see on the top left corner that there is an index of live coral, macroalgae cover, herbivore fish biomass, and commercial fish biomass. And then at the bottom, the different colors indicate the reef health status. So you can see that commercial fish biomass, regarding the access of fish for our local fishermen, is in a critical status in almost every single area that was surveyed. Additionally, the live coral cover and the herbivorous fish biomass are things to note. Along with our coral assessments, we were able to map the underwater coastline of St. Martin using a drop camera approach. So this is literally, you have a camera on a line and you drop it down. The team did, I think, more than 1,500 drops in the coastal area and lagoon of St. Martin, and we're able to create the map on the right. So on the map, you can see where there are seagrass areas, where there's coral reef, patch reef, algae fields, and sand and rubble. Through this research, we were able to show that 87.5% of the coral reef areas are outside of the SPA protected area. 69 of the Gorgonian reef areas are outside of protected area. And important to note, 88% of our seagrass beds are outside of coral protected area. Additionally, through this research, we were able to show that from August to November of 2023, coral bleaching rose in frequency over 230%. Coral bleaching occurs when the corals expel the algae that live in their tissue. It's a symbiotic relationship that normally provides, I think, 95% of the energy the coral needs to survive. When they're under stress, they expel that algae out of their tissue. So they're not able to produce enough energy. Things that cause them stress periodically here are ocean rising temperatures, acidity, pollution. Corals can recover from coral bleaching, but if the conditions don't improve, they often die.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurances.
For a currency, what is important where you're looking at a currency? It has to create confidence. It has to be counterfeit resistant. It has to be easy to identify for the end user. It has to be durable. It has to be a symbol for the country, and it has to be attractive. Our slogan for this currency is Treasures of the Caribbean. In the banknotes and the coins, and the way how we depicted this is to showcase Curaçao and St. Martin as the treasures that they are within the Caribbean. I'm now going to go into the second part of my presentation. How do you check if a banknote is genuine? You can do that in three ways. You can look at a banknote, you can feel it, and you can also tilt it. And what I will do in this presentation is go with you step by step and show you different ways how you can make sure that you're dealing with a genuine banknote. We're going to discuss general security features, the watermark, the see-through feature, high relief printing, also the elements for the visually impaired. This was very important, as hair inclusivity was also a main factor. We'll discuss the motion surface, the rapid detect security threat, the spark flow, color changing ink, and iridescent ink. These are a few security features that I will share, but I must tell you a secret. This banknote is so secure that even though I'm sharing with you a lot of the security features, there are more. And other security features will not be shared with the general public, but it will also only known to special entities, zoals the marechaussee, the douane, and of course, some will only be known to the central bank. So for look, the color is important, the design, the dimension, the orientation, the serial number, the signatures, and the date. I will now go in each specific banknote and give you a few of their highlights. The 10 guilder banknote is a predominantly yellow banknote, and the main character on the front is the gray angelfish and the queen conch. And then at the back of the note, you see the lighthouse of Klein Curaçao. On the 20 guilder banknote, this is a predominantly blue banknote with in the front the spotted eagle ray and the yellow cowrie, and the back gives a view of I'm in Sint Maarten based, so of the Simpson Bay Lagoon. For the 50 guilders, you see this is a predominantly green banknote. The front shows the green sea turtle and the favorite telling shell, and the back shows the beautiful Playa Knippa beach. For the 100 guilders, this is a red pinkish banknote with a spotted parrotfish and a common music flute. And then the back you see the courthouse of Sint Maarten. And the final banknote is the 200 guilder banknote. This is a predominantly purple banknote. The main characters are the long snout seahorse and the giant tune shell. With at the back the Queen Emma Bridge as taken from Otra Banda, and in the far end of it you also see the Wilhelmina Kade. So we spoke about the orientation. If I go back one slide, you see that the front of the banknote is different than the back of the banknote. So the front of the banknote is actually in landscape, and the back of it is in portrait. This was done to make sure this is actually an additional security feature, making it more difficult to counterfeit as well. All banknotes have the same dimension. Actually, this exactly also the same dimension as now, with a measurements of 147 by 66 millimeters. The serial numbers, every banknote has its own unique serial number. Those you see at the back of the banknote on two places, so that when the banknotes are machine readable, they have to align with each other. In front, you see the signatures. This is from the president of the central bank and the executive director, the directeur-secretaris. And the date of the banknote is on the 31st of March 2025. This is the first issue. This is in the back, one spot, and you will see it there. So all the prints for the coming 3 to 4 to 5 years, because we've printed enough banknotes to have them in stock for the coming years, should say the 31st of March 2025. If you see a banknote now with another date, run. As for the look, there's a watermark in the banknote and also a see-through feature. Every banknote has in the white area here a watermark. You will see it is a multitonal image with a compass with the arrows pointing northeast, and at the bottom you will see the letters XG when you hold this to the light. For the see-through pattern that is actually right under the watermark, that's here, I'm not sure if you see it well, but that is XCG, but on the front and the back it's only colored halfway. But when you hold it to the light, you will see the letters XCG joined together. You can also feel it. This banknote has high relief printing, and it also has elements for the visually impaired. For the high relief printing, actually when you go over the sea creature and you feel it, there's raised ink on the front of the banknote, so on the sea creatures, on the Centrale Bank van Curaçao and Sint Maarten, on the signatures, and also the domination. This is only on the front of the banknote, so these 4 elements are very specific to each banknote, and that's why you can also know whether or not the banknote is real or not. The sea creature, you can see it if you zoom in a little bit on the image here, is that every sea creature has its own unique pattern. And this was also done to assist the visually impaired to recognize the difference between each individual sea creature that there is. So for the turtle, you will see lines here, you see the lines going horizontal, vertical, you see dots, all different patterns. So that's one way for them to know which note they're dealing with. Additionally, on the short end of the banknote, there is a dotted line, the raised ink. For the 10 guilders, it's 1. For the 20, it's 2. For the 50 guilder is 3. For the 100 guilders is 4. And finally, for the highest denomination, the 200 guilders, it's 5. So this is another element that a visually impaired can recognize whether or not which currency or which denomination they're dealing with. You have some specific security features where the banknote should be tilted. And then when I say tilted, it's actually a movement that you do from here to here. You're not going to pick it up, but I'm going to show you on the screen how that works. You have the motion surface. It's a 3D moving strip, the rapid detect security thread, and the spark flow, the color changing ink. On the left side of the banknote, let me show you. Every banknote has its own motion surface in its own individual color. And this strip, you cannot remove that from the banknote. It's actually embedded in the paper. If you tilt the banknote, as I just showed you from top to bottom, you will see a sun changing. You see some droplets moving. And you also see the shell changing color. So I'm going to show it to you now. Here you see, if you look at it, the sun changing, the shell is opening up, and the droplets moving. I'll do that one more time. You see the sun is smaller, getting bigger, the XCG. So this is one of a very advanced security feature that we have in the banknotes.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance is.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurance is.
Just quickly from my side, I'd like to chime in on the fact of our current digital exposure within our youth. So while digital devices play a significant role in learning, in the living of children and also adolescents, overuse of these same devices has become a large concern. As MP Webster also voiced earlier, her concern on the reading skills of our same youth. I believe overuse of devices has also indeed shown decrease in reading proficiency. Young minds remain vulnerable to social media, video games, rather in the general term, a digital addiction. Globally, there are studies pointing out to the increase in social anxieties and higher depression rates due to this. And of course, COVID only increased these digital dependencies. So my question is, can we seek some solutions on this topic where we can actively engage with schools on the device uses, where a healthy balance can be sought? Of course, in the age of AI and digitalization, our young minds need to be computer savvy with an added exposure to coding programs, in my opinion, of course, and engaging with them to entice interest in computers in a healthy manner. In my opinion, we also need to have a balance where this doesn't stifle the growth of the same young minds due to the negative effects of this digital exposure.
There were a couple things said that jolted a couple things in my mind as they were said. So earlier, MP Westcott mentioned early childhood versus further streaming of education. It's an excellent point. I would like to ask the Minister through you, Mr. Chair, what are the plans moving forward as it pertains to the synergy between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of VSA? Because if I understand it correctly, early childhood falls under the Ministry of VSA and not the Ministry of Education. And I know that has been a challenge over the years. And if we're now saying, hey, we're going to add more attention to the crossover between the two streams, then we also need to take a step back and see what, on the apparatus level, how that is functioning. So what are the plans for between the two ministries moving forward as it pertains to merging, I wouldn't say merging, but the synergy between early childhood and further streams of education, vis-a-vis VSA and education. I touched earlier on the point of promotions of teachers, because everything, the presentation has portrayed a lot of data, and jump high, jump low, the backbone of that data are the teachers, right? And so when I ask for, hey, what, if we can start showing the graphs as it pertains to the promotion of the various teachers, I would also like to know what are the steps being taken to make that process, to take that process to the next level. Because right now, if I understand correctly, there are different tiers, especially on the primary school level. I think tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or ABC, as it pertains to promotion of the teachers, because it's done now by years of service or years of experience. I think that's an outdated system. If that is the system, I can be stand corrected. Because right now, if I'm a teacher fresh out of school, right, and I hit the ground running, and in my first 5 years, I further my education, I become a specialist, let's say, in special education, I still have to wait on the current system whenever that tier says I could take the next step forward. So as it pertains to stimulating teachers to further their education, how can we now, how is the Minister, to you, Mr. Chair, planning to combine that with the tier system and potential promotions moving forward?
At least one of the private schools has a focus on STEM education. One of my colleague MPs mentioned STEM education, and there's a lot of talk about digital divide amongst the students who has access to computers, etc. But what is looming now, I think, is an AI divide, because right now, coding and AI, no matter what we look at it, in 10 years, the landscape will be completely different because of AI. We're seeing it already. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm asking if there are any plans, just like how I asked about agriculture and tourism to the curriculum, are there any plans for adding, having more emphasis on STEM in the classrooms, and how will we monitor how will that be monitored to see the increase? And then dovetailing on what my colleague MP Arian stated about the need for people in the construction sector and the nursing sector with diplomas who are accredited. This, to me, this also counts for the tourism industry, because seeing the requests for work permits and seeing the figures, again, from the census, we know that 80% of the construction workers on St. Martin and, 80% of tourism workers actually are not born on St. Martin. And a lot of them require then labor permits, etc. So there are labor reports. I think that there are at least 3 labor reports, and there is an interface between labor and the education department. So I'm asking if the Ministry of Education is working together with the ministry in charge of labor in seeing how through education we can bridge that gap in the workforce that is needed and will be needed for St. Martin in the coming years. And again, not want to talk about the olden days, but we used to have the LTS and the MTS, Lagere Technische School and the Middelbare Technische School, and those schools gave us our certified technical workers. Now we have NEPA and vocational school, but how many carpenters, masons, bricklayers, etc. are we churning out? Because without us having people with those certificates, we won't have the workforce, which in turn will lead to the immigration issue and having us to import more people. And when we want to import people to do this work for us, we are requesting that they have these diplomas. But what are we doing? Not for now. I am seeing this as a mid to long-term plan at this moment, because I don't think we have enough of it. But what is a timeline? What is the ministry looking at as to when we will be able to develop young people to fill the void in these areas, in the technical areas, in our workforce?